There is a specific kind of person who moves through the world carrying a quiet, invisible weight, an ache for something more tangible than the paycheck that arrives and vanishes, than the routines that promise security but deliver only numbness. This person might pass you on the highway in a car that looks unassuming from a distance, perhaps a decade-old sedan with faded paint and a slight lean to one side. Yet if you pull alongside at a stoplight, you notice the details. The low-slung stance that hugs the pavement a little too aggressively. The subtle gleam of aftermarket rims that cost more than the monthly insurance payment. The faint growl beneath the hood that hints at hours spent chasing perfection no one else will ever fully appreciate. They are not wealthy. In fact, they are often the opposite, living month to month, choosing between groceries and gasoline, letting the rent hover just past due while another package of meticulously researched parts arrives at their door. They sacrifice everything for upgrades, not out of ignorance of the cost, but in full awareness of it, as if the math of survival has been quietly overruled by a deeper arithmetic of the soul. You might recognize this person in the friend who skips a group dinner to install new coilovers under flickering garage lights, or in the coworker whose social media shows nothing but dyno graphs and forum threads instead of vacations or milestones. Perhaps in the stillness of your own late-night scrolling you have felt the echo of that same pull. An urge to transform something ordinary into an extension of yourself, even when every rational voice warns against it. And yet, and this isn't really about cars. It never was. The vehicle is merely the stage, the canvas, the battlefield where a far more universal human drama unfolds. The search for control in a life that often feels scripted by forces far beyond our grasp. Watch them closely and the behavior reveals its first layer. They arrive home after a 12-hour shift, body heavy with fatigue, yet the moment the garage door rises, they are alive again. Tools are laid out with surgical precision. A new intake system is unboxed, its polished piping catching the light like a promise. They know the numbers do not lie. The upgrade will not pay for itself, will not fix the transmission that still slips on cold mornings, will not prevent the next unexpected repair bill. Still, they begin the work, hands moving with a patience the rest of their week rarely allows. Hours slip away unnoticed. What does this pattern disclose about the person behind the wrench? It discloses a mind that has learned to locate meaning in incremental mastery, in the small, measurable victories that the larger world withholds. Society tells us to optimize for stability, to climb the ladder, to accumulate the invisible assets of retirement accounts and credit scores. But for this individual, those ladders often feel bolted to someone else's wall. The car, by contrast, yields directly to effort. Adjust the camber and the cornering sharpens, tune the ECU and the power curve transforms. The cause and effect are immediate, honest, and entirely their own. This brings us to a concept that psychologists have studied for decades under the framework of self-determination theory. At its core, the theory proposes that human beings flourish when three fundamental needs are satisfied. The need for autonomy, the feeling that our actions arise from within rather than from external pressure. The need for competence, the sense that we are capable of mastering challenges and producing meaningful results. And the need for relatedness, the quiet assurance that we belong to something larger than ourselves. In the daily grind of modern existence, these needs are frequently starved. Jobs demand compliance over creativity. Finances impose limits that mock our ambitions. Even relationships can begin to feel like negotiations rather than chosen bonds. Yet in the garage, all three ignite at once. Autonomy flows through every decision, what parts to source, which direction the build will take. Each competence emerges with each successful bolt tightened, each test drive that confirms the numbers on the laptop screen. And relatedness appears in the online forums at 2 a.m., in the knowing nods exchanged at cars and coffee meets, in the unspoken language shared by strangers who understand that this pursuit is never truly solitary. The modder is not merely fixing a machine, they are feeding a starved psyche. Zoom a little closer still, and the behavior begins to illuminate the thinking beneath it. These are not impulsive spenders chasing fleeting dopamine hits, though the brain's reward pathways certainly play their part. Rather, they operate from a deeper internal logic. The car becomes a mirror in which they see a version of themselves that the rest of life refuses to reflect. In a culture that measures worth by titles and net worth, the broke modder constructs an alternate metric, one built from horsepower curves and weld quality, from the knowledge that this machine, however imperfect, carries their signature in every modified bracket and custom bracket. It is a form of identity formation that feels almost ancient, reminiscent of the way early humans marked territory or crafted tools that outlasted a single lifetime. The uncomfortable truth here, the one we rarely voice aloud, is that most of us harbor similar quiet rebellions. We tell ourselves our sacrifices are rational, investments in passion, expressions of individuality. Yet deep down we recognize the asymmetry. We pour resources into domains that may never repay us financially because in those domains alone, we feel undeniably real. The rest of existence can feel borrowed, rented, temporary, and the modified car does not. Layer by layer, the psychology deepens into identity itself.
Autonomy is the need
The person
to
who
feel in
once saw their
control of your
vehicle as mere
actions.
transportation now
Relatedness
experiences
is the
it
need
as
to
an
feel
extension of
effective
self,
to others.
what researchers sometimes call the extended self. The way objects we shape begin to shape us in return. Childhood memories often surface here, unbidden. Perhaps it was the father who taught them to change oil on a Saturday morning. The two of them shoulder to shoulder in silence, the simple act of repair forging a bond words never could. Or maybe it was the teenage years when everything else, school, home, future, felt dictated by adults and circumstance, while the junkyard find in the driveway offered the first taste of sovereignty. That memory lingers like an emotional anchor. The upgrades today are not nostalgia alone, they are continuation, and proof that the child who once felt powerless has grown into someone capable of leaving a mark. The car becomes a rolling autobiography. Every lowered spring a declaration of defiance against the gravity that tries to keep us small. Every upgraded turbo a breath of power claimed in a world that often leaves us breathless. And yet even identity is not the final horizon. As the script of their life unfolds further, the modder's choices point toward an entire philosophy of existence, one that quietly rejects the narrative of deferred living. Society preaches patience. Save first, live later, accumulate before you create. The broke car modder lives otherwise. They understand intuitively, if not explicitly, that meaning is not stored in bank balances but forged in the present act of becoming. They accept the trade-offs, the strained friendships, or the sleepless nights, the knowledge that this path may never lead to conventional success, because the alternative feels like a slower form of disappearance. In their world, the garage is not a hobby space. It is a temple to the idea that human beings were meant to shape matter, to wrestle chaos into form, to stand back at the end of a long night and say, I made this different. The upgrades are not luxuries. They are rituals of self-assertion in an age that increasingly asks us to outsource our competence to algorithms and experts. Of course, the observer might still ask whether this is wisdom or quiet tragedy. After all, the car will eventually rust, the upgrades will be surpassed by newer technology, and the financial scars may linger long after the thrill fades. But that question misses the deeper current. The modder is not blind to consequence. They have simply recalibrated what consequence means. They have chosen to measure life not by what they preserve, but by what they transform. And in that choice lies a mirror held up to every one of us, regardless of whether our passion involves horsepower or something far quieter. Perhaps a garden tended at dawn, a musical instrument practiced in secret, or a dream deferred yet never abandoned. So here is the reflection worth carrying forward. What is the thing in your own life that you sacrifice for? Not because the world demands it, but because something inside you insists it must be done. What quiet obsession calls you into the garage or the studio or the late-night study, even when practicality screams otherwise? And when you stand back from that creation, however imperfect or unfinished, do you recognize the person looking back at you as the truest version of yourself? The answer may not change your bank account or your weekend plans, but it might just reveal the philosophy you have been living all along, one modification at a time.